Hi, my name's Lou, and this is Reflect Joy. Today, I want to go over some experiences that I've had, and mainly the failures that I've experienced that have led to my personal growth as a boyfriend and husband, eventually. If you like the video, please leave a like, and feel free to comment if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer. First one that I want to talk to you about is grocery shopping. And so my wife and I used to have a lot of friction when going grocery shopping, and it was mainly because we were doing two different things. I was doing a task that had to be fulfilled, and so I went in for what I called ingredients or specific things. She, on the other hand, wanted to go shopping for the sake of the shopping experience. And so when we would eventually, this became such an annoyance because we would go into a store, I would be running around and grabbing the things that we had talked about needing, and she would be on the second of 30 aisles inside of the store, and I would have 90% of what it is that we needed. And then I would be so just stuck in this, I can't believe that we're doing this. You're making this take so much more time than it needs to. I want to get home. I have other things that I want to do. Also, there's cold things in the cart now, and they're warming up as you slowly walk through and meander about the store in order to do your shopping experience. And so after doing this for quite some time, perhaps even months or years of us going shopping together, and it always being this kind of struggle and pull between how we wanted to go shopping, I decided it was time to finally address that problem. And so I said to her, look, okay, are we going shopping for things, or are we going shopping? Right, so that became the question in the car on the way to the grocery store. Are we going to be efficient about the thing, or do you want a shopping experience right now? And so then she would communicate with a little bit of resistance sometimes. Okay, we're shopping for things. Great, when we walk into the store, we're going to split up, and you grab everything on the left side of the store, I'll grab everything on the right, I'll meet you in the middle, we'll get out of here, we'll get home, and we can go do the other thing that we want to do. And then sometimes she would answer, look, yeah, I want to walk through the store and take my time. Great, good. Understand that I am probably not going to be able to simply follow you around with a cart and give you maximal continuous attention when we're doing this. So this was the secondary conversation and follow-up after this, because what would happen would be, hey, I want to go shopping, and then I would be a friggin' sourpuss the entire time as we're going through a serpentine of the aisles, because she's, pulling a thing off. Hey, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And of course, to me, it's you know what the ingredient is. You don't need my opinion, but that wasn't actually the purposefulness of why she was doing that. She wasn't actually genuinely needing my opinion in that situation. She wanted me to engage in the activity with her. And so we had a secondary conversation, and it's look, if you ask me a thing, I will put aside whatever, right? But otherwise, let me, listen to a podcast, or watch a YouTube video or something while we do this, because instead of this task being the 10 minutes that it should be, we're making it into a 45-minute task, and I'm not going to be able to lock in on attention for something that I'm that disinterested in. And that's made it so that when we go shopping together, I'm the setting the expectations correct at the beginning, that yeah, you'll get my attention when you want it and need it, but I can't give you continuous attention for 45 minutes on such a disinteresting thing. And that's made her expectation that yeah, when I want or need him, he's there. But then if I don't, I'm not going to be mad at him or the situation for the fact that he's not presently engaged in staring at the boxes with me. And so that made us communicate a lot better and set expectations and groundwork earlier and faster inside of it. And so if you also have a hard time with grocery shopping, or there's some type of shared tasks that you do together, try to communicate what the expectations are in advance about that thing, and figure out that sticking point. And this goes back to the reducing friction video that was last. And so take a look at that, because if you can analyze what's causing the situation to suck every time, like change the input variables, like change the thing that's causing that, and like just communicate expectations better from the start. And so like this was a really quintessential thing on like how we changed, like just saying our expectations to one another for like how we're going to handle and engage in a situation. And so moving on from this, we have like a laundry hamper story. Okay, so like my wife does laundry, and then there is a hamper of clean towels downstairs, right? And it's a bit heavy for her. I mean, she could like, you know, lug it a stair at a time or something of that nature, because we have large hampers so that we'll actually do like full loads of laundry. So oftentimes when laundry's done, hey dear, can you take the hamper up? Yes, right? So like, and I'll get to this later in the video, about just like saying sure, like, yeah, do the thing when you can. So she asked me to take the hamper up, and she says like, hey, can you take the hamper up the stairs and put it by the linen cabinet? Yes, right? So like I immediately like drop what I'm doing so that I don't forget to do it later or on my next trip up the stairs. And I go grab the laundry hamper, and I bring it up the stairs. I put it right next to the linen cabinet as she requested. And I'm like, man, I nailed that. Like I did the husband thing. I was there. I was ready to like act when she asked and needed a hand. And then like 2 days later or 3 days later, it's still going over in her head. She's a little upset about something, and I'm asking her like, well, what's the thing that you're like upset about? And she explains to me, you could have folded the towels and put them away. And I was like, okay. So like the ask that she made wasn't what she was looking for fully out of the situation. And what, like, this is I'm not a mind reader, dear, like, please, you know, like, that's the bad response, right? What I told her in that moment was, got you. Okay, so like, from my perspective, like, I nailed this out of the park, like, home run. I did the whole thing, right? Exactly as you asked it. I made myself available. And then like, you know, for you to be like upset about the result of that later on is weird to me, because I did precisely what you asked in the situation. And so what I asked of her was in seeking better communication, like, if there is a multi-stage task wherein like it is not so very clearly implied that I need to see it all the way through to get the thing done, like, just ask me for the extra steps on the task. And then now she's learned to like make the full ask of me in a situation, and it makes it way easier because I don't miss her expectations in the situation. But like, also, some women don't develop this communication, right? And so like when you're dealing with this, or like even like some men are kind of not so clear about this communication, like with your partner or your spouse or whatever, like, try to think one step ahead and just take like one small extra step when you're doing something that's like in assistance. It's like, okay, I'm assisting them, and like gladly so, right? So like if you can get in the framework of that, like, yeah, I'm helping somebody that like I love and care about, it's like, well, what other thing could I do that would be just a little bit nicer in the situation for somebody that like I care for? And so the answer is like, yeah, I knew ethereally that the towels were going to have to get folded and put away. And I had the time and the ability to do it in that moment, but it wasn't an ask of me. And so now I try to think like, oh yeah, like, I love her. Why wouldn't I just like do an extra thing to help her when I have the capacity to do it right now? You know, what else am I going to do? Could like play a video game or watch a show or something? It's like, nah, I could take a little bit more of the burden off of her in this situation. And so even when you're in this, like, ideally there's full communication, but like even in the absence of it, like, try to think of like, yeah, I could probably be doing this a little bit better. And like, this goes back to the how to be more efficient video. Moving on from this, it's like disagreements and fights. Okay, so like this is, I mean, clearly, like, you know, when people separate, break up, or whatever, right? The main cause of this is usually some type of like inability for you two to reconcile differences, right? And that's a whole different subject, right? But you should try to get better at reconciling differences insofar as that, like, a disagreement is probably what you're having in this situation. Like, a fight is a bad implication. So like when you and your, you know, boyfriend, girlfriend, or you and your husband, wife, when you have a difference of outlook or opinion on a situation, the goal is to relay what it is that, like, built your position, and then to have a conversation about it, and then try to understand the other person's position. So like there's this kind of like active listening where the person says something to you, you say like they might say 10 sentences to you, and then you say it back in like 1 or 2 sentences to say that, like, am I understanding this correctly? Okay. So doing that, like, right at first, it feels very patronizing, but then, like, ultimately you realize that, like, this makes it so much better for both of you to actually grasp the information as you're going through. And a fight is a terrible way of looking at it, because, like, in a fight, like, there's inherently competition. Like, somebody is trying to win and somebody is trying to lose. Okay. And the issue can be that, like, especially in this active listening thing, because on average, men are more inclined towards, like, logic and reason, and women more towards, like, an emotional response. And it's I so value that emotional response out of my wife, because she does things like recall stuff that I could never bring back forward, but, like, maybe not with, like, the precision that I might look at something, but, like, she has like a intuition that, like, perhaps I don't have, because it's, like, bringing up this emotional response. And so when I propose this, like, it can be especially difficult for the women. And so, like, as like the men inside of this, what you need to be very cognizant of is that, like, though she has an opinion, like, some type of thing led to that, and so you should try to understand what led to it, right? And so, like, don't just out logic and out reason the other partner, right? And, like, some women are very high on, like, their ability to logic and reason, and, like, just don't like be the kind of, like, intellectual giant in the situation and just, like, crush the other person. It's like, try to understand what that thing is, and then try to figure out why you came to 2 separate conclusions, and then what is the approach so that both people feel reasonably satisfied in the situation without, like, having to compromise their like, morals, right? And when you're both seeking, like, the pragmatic answer together, it is so much more fruitful to actually get things done, and then to not have stuff like dogpile on in the future. And the other thing, this comes from, like, a modern philosopher, like, if you engage in a disagreement insofar as that there's a fight and you win that fight, like, the other person loses, right? And you do that 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. What ends up happening is that, yeah, great, good for you. You feel good, and, like, you're always the winner, right? But then, like, the other person doesn't come to you when there's actually a problem anymore, because they know that they're just going to lose to you, okay? So, like, now you've stopped addressing problems altogether. And then the other part of it is that, like, yeah, good for you, you're the winner, but, like, now you're married to or dating a loser. Like, don't chop down the other person in the situation as best as you can handle it. Like, try to avoid this type of personal, like, diminution of the other person, and, like, understand that there's a whole long list of reasons why they might have come to a different conclusion than you. And, like, ultimately you'll probably still disagree with it, but, like, you might actually, like, grow and learn from, you know, their thing here, right? And so, like, this is the case with, like, my wife and, like, me starting to understand that, like, yeah, she's got good insight sometimes, and so, like, I need to slow down, listen, and though I may, like, ultimately we might still finish something as, like, not in the same position, like, at a minimum we understand why the other person is, and we're not attributing, like, malice in the situation towards one another any longer. It's like, no, like, now I actually understand your position, and it is out of a position of goodwill. And so that's super useful inside of a relationship where, like, you're able to actually build on that understanding of, like, goodwill from the other person. But lean in towards, like, trying to communicate that we just came to different conclusions in this as a disagreement. Now, sometimes you're going to get inflamed, like, and this is really still focusing on like the fights thing, right? And there's sometimes where like I am incapable of responding correctly, and there are times where my wife is just incapable of like getting over her like emotional state at that moment. Again, not exclusive to her. Like, I've been there. And like the thing about this is, if you can see that what you're doing or the other person is doing is behaving poorly, don't use that as a wedge and a tool in order to like drive the situation harder so that you're winning, right? Like, sometimes when we get into this like inflamed state, the nicest thing to do is to say, we're not doing this well at the moment. Can we take 10 minutes? And like, this ice time is like really transformative, because like if you have something like there's real things that you have to address in life, that like there's real disagreements on like how you might operate them, right? Like, how do you deal with family? Like, are you going to move a parent in? Like, you're dealing with like raising kids or something, right? Like, there's real things that you need to sort out. And like, sometimes you're passionate about that position. And then like, sometimes the other person says something that's like going to inflame you, right? But like, instead of flaming back at that person, it is so much better to say, that hurt. Like, give me 5 minutes so that like I can come back and talk to you and tell you like how that felt for me, rather than just immediately snapping back at that person. If you can pull that off, like, your life becomes so much better. You never have like these we're not talking for like 5 hours or something of this nature because we're so mad at each other type of situations. Like, it really, really helps if you can just ask for 5 minutes here and there when like it's a real difficult situation. And then like the patience portion of this is that like sometimes the other person will communicate in a way that's like not full, not clear. And instead of like getting frustrated in that situation, try to beg the question, try to get a little bit more clarification out of the person so that you can understand it better. And like, when you tell them like, look, okay, I hear you, but like, I'm not sure that I'm fully understanding it. Can you like tell me a little bit more? Like, the answer is always pretty much going to be yes, right? And it's like, it's this admission from like, maybe I could have got it, but like, I'm not at the moment. And so this is like that patience, build the patience so that you fully understand the other person's position. And when you become inflamed, it's like, take a few minutes, like not a few hours, not a few days or something of this nature. Like, take a little bit of time to process it so that you're not just like immediately firing off at one another. Sure is an amazing response to somebody that you care about, that like you're trying to help out. Okay. This is like something from like a sitcom from like the 2000s or whatever, but like this yes dear type of mentality, it's like, don't be a needless yes person where like you're just, getting taken advantage of and walked over. Like, hopefully, your spouse or your significant other is like caring enough to not see you as like simply a tool to get things done, right? But like, if you can see the prudence in that, like, yeah, I understand that they're a little busy, they could use a little bit of help right now, right? I don't want to necessarily be interrupted. Like, I don't want to go do the thing that they're asking of me. Maybe they could have handled it themselves, right? It's like, stop all of that insofar as that, like, you're watching a TV show. Like, it's not that important. You can pause it. You're playing a video game, right? It's like, I will be available in like 3 to 5 minutes after like this round is over or whatever the thing is that you're doing. It's like, most often you could actually stop what you're doing and like not be resentful about it if it's a reasonable thing that's being asked of you, where like you actually go get to help the person, and then like it's rewarding in doing good for the other person that you care about and that you love in the first place, right? So like, sometimes I won't have it in me to just say like yes to a situation, and so I'll say sure in the situation, and like that's it, just one word response to her, because I don't want to come up with you asked me to do this thing earlier and then like I went and did that, can you just like handle this? Like, avoid the histrionics, right? It's like, dear, can you help with the dishes, right? And it's like, I've already done like 2 loads of dishes today because like we entertained last night or whatever, but like she needs the sink cleared so that she can like bake or whatever, right? And so instead of me dogpiling on like this whole history of like, I did the dishes, I got up early, you know, I was so good about it, I got right into chores, and, you know, like, can you just do it, right? Like, no. It's like, okay, instead of watching like some Japanese cartoon, I can just go and say, sure, right? And then I'll like walk over to the sink and like make a little bit of progress for it, and then she can go do like the thing. But in the meantime, maybe she was like minding the family, or she was, you know, cleaning up like the counters or something of this nature. It's like, just say sure, because instead of getting so animated, and like you don't have to rise yourself to like an emphatic yes, sure works a lot. And like as a psychological thing, it's super helpful to say that, okay, with a smile, like, okay. So moving on from here, it's like this seeking better communication is the thing that'll like cause you probably the most growth inside of your relationship. And so we had, I'll give 2 examples here. One where I had a shortcoming, one where my spouse did. To demonstrate that like this has to be a mutual growth thing. Like you both aim to try to do better in this situation in the way that you communicate. So like my wife loves kitchen gadgets, and like it's cool, it's fun sometimes, but like we got a lot of kitchen gadgets. And so like I've had to reorganize like bins inside of the garage for like the kitchen cabinets that are used like less than once per quarter, perhaps. Like all of that has to like start moving out of the kitchen because it's a little bit too full or whatever. And they have application and use. And so like, okay, fine. Like, did we absolutely need it? Right. And so like, we've had this conversation about like, maybe we have too many kitchen gadgets, and you know, maybe we should start parsing it down. And it was even like a beginning part of the conversation was like, can I start moving some of these things out of our home so that our home is not so cluttered and into the garage? And so I was just holding up something. Do you use it more or less frequently than once a quarter or like twice a year? Right. And if she said less, like it went into a bin, and there's a kitchen gadgets bin in the garage that she can go use on occasion. And so having had that conversation and that agreement and making all these efforts together to like try to make it so that our home's like a little bit neater and more efficient, especially in the kitchen, so that it's not so anxiety inducing to go cook. What ended up happening was that she had gotten a kitchen gadget in essence, right? She started to bake sourdough in the home, which is an amazing hobby to take up, right? Because all bread and grocery stores suck. I'll get into health and nutrition at some point in the future, but like bread baking at home is like a really awesome endeavor. And it's a distinct advantage to our family too. But she comes to me and she tells me, hey, look, I got this thing that's going to like look at this new kitchen gadget, and it's related to the baking this, right? And she's got a smile on her face, and she is excited about it, and excited about like providing this thing for her family and taking on this like new responsibility to like regularly like make bread for our home. And like my immediate response to her is, another friggin' kitchen gadget? And man, did that crush her in that moment. Like that was not cool. She was coming to me with like excitement and joy, and like it was the start of like a new project, a new want, and a new desire. And like now I'm very thankful because like she did stick with it in spite of me like crushing all of her like excitement and joy about the thing right at the beginning. Like I came to her and I apologized that like I should have listened more in this situation before I said another kitchen gadget. Like I should have allowed you the opportunity to show me that this wasn't a once a quarter thing, and that like you were excited about this. And so like I came to her and I apologized for it. So now when try not to crush her joy, right? Because like I want her to be happy. So like that was kind of part of the learning experience, was that like, oh yeah, like it's good that you're happy. Like, why would I be resentful about it? So like, let me work it out. And it was like, ultimately, you know, I'm trying to work off of this conceptual level of like, we spend too much on like, you know, dumb kitchen gadgets, right? It's like, pull a knife out, don't use an apple core, right? Whatever the thing might be. Like, I have a difference of opinion here from her, and like, but I want her to be happy. Like, how would you not want your spouse or your significant other to be happy, and especially with you, right? So I learned to be more cautious about this, to listen a little bit more before I try to aim for correction in the situation. And I think I've gotten better about it of late. But then recently we had a thing. We were both a little bit short on sleep, tough night with the kid, whatever it was. And from our bedroom to our bathroom, there's no door walking directly into the bathroom, and there is like a window in there that like causes light to come into the bedroom, and we have the nursery inside of our bedroom. So we have this blackout curtain that's draped across, and you have to use like one of those compression rods that like that doesn't do damage to the wall or whatever, to hang up this drape. And it's a very heavy drape because it's a thick blackout drape, but it makes it easier for the kid to nap during the day. So great, cool. She gets like the materials, I get up on the stepladder, I take the whole thing apart, I assemble it, I put it up, and it's good. And then one morning, she texts me, or like as she's getting ready to put the kid down, hey, I need you, like kind of urgently, so that the kid can take the nap. Okay, and the picture is like just the bare hallway that now goes from like the bedroom to the bathroom, like it fell. So I run about, I grab the stepladder, I go into the room, I take the compression rod, and I get everything relaced again, and I put it up, and I twist it, and I put it back into place and everything. And then, like, I see while I'm doing the work that, like, yeah, it's a little bit lower than it was the last time, but it's still off the ground, and, like, it was, like, I didn't think that it was, like, that important what the exact height of the thing was, right? At least this was what was going through my mind. And I pack up the folding ladder, and I go to, like, I put it back kind of off on the side, and job done, right? Like, I jumped to action, I did the thing, I said sure, right? So then she walks into the bedroom, but again, like, we're both a little bit on edge, and she says to me, just, it's lower than last time. And, like, not in a like, awesome tone, right? So then I immediately respond, okay, dear. It's only like 1/4 of an inch lower than it was last time, right? And so like I'm perhaps getting like a little pedantic because it was probably actually something like 3/4 inch or an inch, right? And she says, no, it's way more than that. Okay, sure, fine, it's more than that. Like, it's not worth me fighting over like the proportions of an inch lower that this thing is right now, okay? But like, so I say to her, sure, okay, do you want me to fix it? And it's like in this tone, right? It's in this kind of like I'm being put upon type of tone, because she's coming at me with like, here's this thing, right? But I call myself to at least get across that like I'm willing to do what you need me to do in the situation in order to like ameliorate the problem. And she says, screw it, it's fine, and turns and leaves the room, right? And again, like, it's a little short on sleep. It's like way early in the morning, right? And one tip is that, like, for the men watching this video, when she says screw it, it's fine, it's really not. Like, that is the I'm done. Like, I can't engage more in this situation. And so I take a second to like reflect and calm, and it's like, I can fix it in like 90 seconds. Like, just go get the friggin' stepladder again and fix it in the situation, because it's just gonna be better, right? So I like undo the tension rod, I move it up, I like super hard tighten it, and I get it like high again, and like I don't leave like the gap at the top that I did the first time. And then I go downstairs, and I have a conversation with her after like taking 10 minutes to think about it. And I said, look, you asked me to do the thing, I jumped to do the thing. And then like I hung it up, and then like your immediate thing is like that happened there was that you walked in with like, you know, sour mood. I get that it's been a tough morning, and then like levied criticism towards me, and then completely disengaged from the situation. I was like, it was hard for me not to get like, you know, to be escalatory. And so, okay, what would have been nice probably would have been if you came in and you said, thanks for knocking that out like so quickly. It is low, and like the reason I care about that is that more light's coming in the top. Like, could you please raise it? And then that's a very easy sure from me, because like I'm seeing that I'm helping with a problem. Like, not that it's like some needless aesthetic thing that I don't care about, right? Like, acknowledge that I did, that I made the effort first, please, and then like, and make a kind ask of me. And she's like, since we had the conversation, like I can tell you that like when I go to do something, like I don't think that it's false that she's like showing the appreciation towards me doing a thing now. It's like sometimes I just had to communicate that like, yeah, like tell me that say good job, you know? And it like this conversation will likely come up again in like a couple of years time, or like the 5 years time, right? Like, don't be afraid that if you have to have the conversation a few times to try to knock it out, or like even periodically, that like reflecting and working together on this is so much more beneficial for the both of you. So try to communicate better. Functionally, I'll just hit the headline here. Ingrained through practice, empathy, love, care, and a will for good of the other. Like, you love the person. Presumably, this is, you know, why you're with them, or like you're discerning if you can spend a lifetime together, right? It's like, okay, try to be understanding of this person. Give your love and your care in that situation, and like wish for their better, because like them being better is you being better, is like the unit of the two of you being better. So like always will for the other person's good. And like if you can, again, this is that kind of like scientific method approach that I had mentioned in like the previous video. If you can look back and like try to reflect on how can that just be a bit better next time, and then like have the conversation, right? Not the fights. Have the conversation together that like, hey, let's both aim up together. Like, that's transformative, and really changes like the outlook of how your relationship is, that like you're working together to try to do better. Like, broken as you both probably are from like whatever your lifetime of experiences are, it's like, let's complement each other. Let's try to do it a little better. And like, yeah, it's just beautiful. So like I encourage you that like when you're engaging in this way, like try to also bring your spouse or your significant other into this style of like, let's try. I hope you like the storytime format. I'm hoping that it makes it a little bit easier to take away some of this type of personal experience and apply it into your own life. I suggest you share it with like your spouse, significant other, and review it, right? Maybe there's something that you're going to disagree with me on, but like maybe ultimately you guys can aim up together. So I wish you the best, and stay well, friends. By the way, like, subscribe. Every new subscriber is like a milestone for me as a little channel. Thanks.